good, the true, the beautiful, in everything we find. Aesthetic cloud, we strive to make a world that's kind and bright.
It is 2 p.m. on Tuesday, February 10, 2026. This is our 7th in-person meeting of our 143rd year. Sadly, the ice and snow took care of our Founders' Day. The presentation that I have read and is really, really well done is on the website, so you certainly can go to the website and read it there. I have some chocolates in the back to sweeten that loss. Please, take a chocolate. Please, silence your cell phones, put them into airplane mode so Lynn can do his recording. Sign the attendance book. If you happen to be watching online, please text to Jeanette Hamilton, our vice president, with your name so she knows you're watching. And if you're doing catch-up, which some people do periodically, let her know which program you have watched, which date you have watched. We have one guest today. She is a guest of Judy Johnson and Jeanette Hamilton. It's Teresa Dyer Cotton. Would you please stand? I saw you earlier, but... Our chairman of hostesses today is Carol Holman, and she's going to describe her decorations, her group's decorations, and her helpers. Carol.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam President, honored guest, and fellow esteems. Our presentations today explore the history of Arkansas's Hot Springs National Park. My committee members are fellow esteems Marion Folk and Mary Wilgen. To illustrate our first paper, Play Ball, we have a wonderful collection of baseball memorabilia provided by fellow estate Jean Fitzgerald, whose husband, fortunately, has an extensive collection. You guys have got to look at it. It's got a signed baseballs by Willie Mays and Stan Musial, and then an officially autographed baseballs and valuable baseball cards from some of the greats. And they're all up here, and she's even got programs from some of the games in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, a lot of memorabilia from that era. And you'll see how it ties into Hot Springs. For our second presentation, I ventured over to the Gangster Museum in Hot Springs. And I don't know if you've ever been there, but it is an hour-and-a-half tour, and you learn everything you'd ever want to know about the notorious gangsters, and just really kind of graphic stuff too. It's pretty shocking. On display here we have 2 gangster hats that I got at the museum. And I had the book Vapors by David Hill, which I think some of you have probably read. That is like a really good rendition because he is a descendant of one of the crime families. And it was his personal history of that vice-happy era. Anyway, and also we included some Valentines flowers and some decorations to celebrate the holiday. So, thank you, and I hope you enjoy the presentations.
To go with the history, I recently found out that Sybil Hampton, one of our members and a former president, will be making a presentation at UALR in the Fine Arts Building February 20 at 2 p.m. And she is a great historical resource for Black history and Arkansas and Little Rock and Central High School. And so I wanted you all to know about that. It's also come to my attention that there's some confusion about paper presentations and working with Lynn Johnson. So please send a 100-word summary to our recording secretary, Lisa LeGrone, before you give your presentation. Send the whole presentation electronically to Ann Orsi for the website and to Susan Goldner for the archives. That will help us all. And if you need Len to help you with some kind of audiovisual things here, please contact him at least a week. 2 weeks would be better, so that he has time to work with you and work with how he gets things projected up here. We have a membership report that unfortunately we could not have for Founders Day, so Jeffrey McKinley, our membership chair, will give it now.
So Lynn, 2 weeks ago, made this cute little thing to take the dullness out of the membership report. So thank you, Lynn, for adding some spice to my life. All right, the membership committee has the duty of keeping up with the number of active members and whether or not those members remain in good standing. So remember, active members, and YouTube land, that you must attend 7 of 13 meetings. If you are short on the attendance, watch YouTube, or we have 5 more wonderful meetings that you may complete the requirement. Please don't make me call you. Don't do it. Just don't do it. I mean, if I call you and ask for your favorite chocolate cake recipe or when your next grandchild, you know it's an avoidance tactic. So just please attend. Because we just don't even want to deal with that at the end of the year. So just show up and enjoy our wonderful group. To go from active to inactive, you must have been in the club for 15 years or reach the age of 80. And you must submit this request in writing to me, the membership chair, by the last meeting of the year, or ding, 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 April 28th, as our little girl is cheering for those. Hopefully we don't have many that want to do that this year. To propose a new member, you must be an active member for 3 years, or you may be an inactive member. That means you are in the club since 2023. Now, if you have someone you would like to propose and you joined after that, look at the person sitting next to you. I assure you they will be glad to help you out. A proposal letter and a second must be received by, what do you think the date is? Okay, everybody at once. April 28th. Thank you. And a summary, it's outlined in the bylaws, but a summary is on the website. And I do have some copies of the summary of how a proposal is to be submitted. I will be glad to email it to you, or I have 4 or 5 copies today. Just feel free to reach out to me, and I will be glad to provide it to you. And we do ask that your guests or your name that you submit for membership has been a guest at the club for at least 2 times. I have last year's list, I have this year's list, but bring so they understand the nature of the club, how exciting it is, but also the responsibility to either perform musically or to deliver a paper. And the good news is, we already have a name submitted for a proposal for a new member. So thank you, Mary Lowe. Also, if you have any changes for the directory, please let me know. Technically, that's not an April 28th deadline, but as we know, the sooner we get it, the better. Plus, we want to make sure that Wanda's corresponding list stays current, or for any other reasons, we have your contact information. As of today, October 10th, 2026, we have 88 active members. We have 75 inactive members. We have 4 associate members and 2 life members for a total of 169 members. As of the report, the last report, there were 171 members, The reduction is due to the passing of Sue Williamson, who was deceased on December 15th, 2025. She was an inactive member and joined the club in 1967. Her memorial will be presented in March. And then Elsa Crocker passed away on February 2nd, 2026. She joined in 1981 and was an associate member, and a memorial will also be presented on her behalf. I will be glad to answer any questions and help you in any way to propose new members or to consider a change in status. And once again, don't forget, April the 28th, and thank you, Lynn. Thank you.
Okay. Today's theme, as you may know, it involves hot springs and sporting events. How fitting, we just had the Super Bowl. I do love the commercials, are in the midst of the Winter Olympics in Italy and are in the middle of the Oaklawn racing season. Even if you're not an athlete, there is something about watching physical performances of well-trained athletes that's fascinating to observe and marvel over strength and ability. My chairman of the day today is Jennifer Wilson Harvey. Jennifer is a practicing attorney who did not attend law school until she was 39. She's been an estate since 2019, serving as corresponding secretary from 2023 to 2025. She has 2 children who are also attorneys and are working on learning her business so that ultimately she can turn that over to them. And 4 grandchildren. She really enjoys her time in Hot Springs. They have a home there as well as their Little Rock home, especially since Hot Springs has a long and varied history. One of her favorite sports to watch is college baseball. Her husband played for Ole Miss. She attended LSU, and of course, they followed the University of Arkansas. So, as you can see, there's good-natured rivalries in her home. Jennifer.
Thank you, Madam President. It's my pleasure to serve as chairman of the day, and it was a fun job getting to know our talent pool of the day. That's how I think of my 3 people. We start with the quote of the day, "It ain't over till it's over," from Yogi Berra, a master of pithy and paradoxical statements, but also a darn good baseball player. I Googled around on him a little, and in addition to all his baseball awards and championships and his yogiisms, we all know he also received a Purple Heart for his participation in the D-Day invasion in Normandy. He served in the Navy as a machine gunner. But now down to business about our talent for the day. Our first presenter is Lisa McNear, who I call my friend and my kind of cousin. We were brought together by our shared mother-in-law, the late Jane McGee Wilson. Lisa grew up in Northwest Florida, the Pensacola-Fort Walton area. She moved to Arkansas, which some of her family found bewildering, but Lisa feels smug about that good decision. She earned a BA in elementary education and a master's and PhD in psychology from the U of A. Lisa's working career included teaching from 6th graders early in her career to ultimately college students at UCA, and starting a program at St. Vincent's that put psychologists in primary care settings. Additionally, for 16 years, she had a private psychology practice specializing in adolescents and families. Lisa was married to Frank McGee for 16 years until his death in 2005. She actually met him at a wedding in the early 80s, but he didn't become her Valentine until he decided to call her 3 years later. Go figure. Lisa is a fabulous cook and grandmother to her beautiful grandson, Beau. Lisa joined the Aesthetic Club in 2022 and has served on the Entertainment and Program Committees. She delivered her first paper in 2023, The Legacy of Isaac Singer. She is presenting her second paper today entitled Play Ball. Come on up, Lisa.
Hi. Good afternoon. Madam President, Madam Chair, fellow esteetes, and all the guests that's here. So it's good to see you. Play ball, the golden era of spring training in Hot Springs, Arkansas. There's no single inventor or discoverer of the game of baseball. The reference to the term baseball first appears actually in a children's book printed in 1774. Major General Abner Doubleday was once considered the architect of America's game, but there's no real evidence that he was ever involved or even followed the game he supposedly invented. It was Alexander Joy Cartwright, a bank teller, who actually first suggested teams of 9 players, a diamond-shaped field with bases that were equidistant apart, and 3 outs per inning. In the Cooperstown Baseball Hall of Fame, Cartwright is honored as the father of modern baseball, while Doubleday has become part of the museum's early romanticized history. The game of baseball, promoted by amateur men's ball clubs in and around New York after the Civil War, brought to a relatively young nation a new passion and pastime. For nearly 5 decades, immortals of America's pastime trained on diamonds and cleansed their bodies in the thermal baths of Hot Springs, Arkansas. In 1886, the Chicago White Stockings were the first to come. Albert Goodwill, known as A.G. Spalding, was a dynamic pitcher himself. Together, he and his brother started the A.G. Spalding and Brothers Sporting Goods business. When Spalding became the owner of the Chicago White Stockings, he and his team captain, Adrian Cap Anson, they agreed that fitness and cleanliness of body were essential habits for a winning team. Habits that were difficult to monitor or enforce off-season. So they came up with a strategy that was pretty expensive for them to get their team fit. They hoped that would help them win a second league championship. So they decided to send their team to Hot Springs, Arkansas, a place known for its healing waters and hilly terrain. Spalding's stated plan was to boil out all the alcoholic microbes. This is Alexander Cartwright, and I'm supposed to be telling Lynn to change. So go to the 4th one. And now the 5th one. So he said, and if that doesn't work, I'm going to send them all to Paris next year and have them all inoculated by Pasteur. An added inducement for the spring training trip to Hot Springs was the Diamond Joe, a luxurious hot springs railroad created in 1875 to ease the difficult 22-mile journey from Malvern to Hot Springs. Without it, travelers, it was serious. They had to face this terrible journey by stagecoach over rocky terrain. The Diamond Joe was famous for its meticulous safety standards and beautiful accommodations. One more. And now another. The next wave of players, the first wave of players practiced on a makeshift field where the Garland County Courthouse now stands. By June of that year, a more elaborate but temporary ball field was being prepared and graded for local games. A portable fence, seating for 500, would be in place for the next spring training. There were dressing and exercise rooms, along with storage for uniforms. The spring training turned out to be pretty effective. The White Stockings did win the pennant again that year. Mike King Kelly, who had previously batted .288, had his batting average jump to .388. In early 1887, Spalding confirmed that the team would return in March, and they started charging for attendance at the practice games. 25 cents to $1, and it proved to be enough to finance this expensive training. The White Stockings win of the 1886 pennant brought a lot of attention to the Hot Springs training camp, and by 1890, competing major league teams were bringing their players there as well. Hot Springs welcomed them all. More than 300 professional ball players trained in Hot Springs between the late 1800s and the mid-1900s, garnering Hot Springs acceptance as the birthplace of major league spring training. Before long, the best players in the country trained in Hot Springs. This mecca for training baseball's finest was not, however, strictly reserved for white major league players. Hot Springs also welcomed the Negro Leagues and minor league players, continuing to expand resources to accommodate the growing numbers. The Gentlemen's Agreement of 1887 banned new contracts for black ball players, creating a de facto segregation and giving rise to the formation of black baseball teams. Some early teams formed in central Arkansas. The Arlingtons of Hot Springs and the Quapaws of Little Rock played teams from St. Louis, Kansas City, and Memphis. The Homestead Grays and the Crawfords were two teams that traveled west from Pennsylvania to enjoy the benefits of the town's baths and training facilities and brought extraordinarily talented players with them. While the practice and training remained segregated, their practice and training and exhibition games drew diverse crowds eager to watch such notable talents as Oscar Charleston, Josh Gibson, Julius Judy Johnson, Smokey Joe Williams, James Cool Papa Bell, and Satchel Paige, all destined to become Hall of Famers. Sadly, it took Major League Baseball over 100 years to officially designate Negro Leagues to Major League status. In the early years of Hot Springs' emergence as a spring baseball training site, little data was collected on the revenue generated during training season. So the impact is hard to compare to the over $700 million enterprise per city it's become today. Teams, their families, and fans stayed at local hotels and enjoyed a range of entertainment venues. I'm terrible at this. Okay, next. Those are the Crawfords. Next, that's Happy Hollow. Okay, there were quirky attractions like the Happy Hollow amusement park where people could dress in costume and get their picture taken. There was Arkansas Alligator Farm, the Ostrich Farm, where, yes, you could ride in a buggy pulled by an ostrich. Along with high-profile entertainers, gracious hotels, and spa services, there were also movie houses, nightclubs, gambling, and prostitution. Hotel business thrived during spring training. Many stayed at the Avenue Hotel, which was quickly renamed the Majestic. The Hotel Eastman opened January 1890, and it was a very sophisticated five-story building considered one of the largest and most luxurious resorts in the country. It was nicknamed the Monarch of the Glen, and it featured a grand promenade, a 200-foot observation tower, grand parlor, and special rooms for reading, playing cards, or playing billiards. It was also the site of Babe Ruth's winning half-dollar coin toss to settle a salary dispute with the New York Yankees. The Woodman of the Union Building, built in 1923 as a hotel, bathhouse, and performance venue, quickly became the center of African American culture in Hot Springs. The Arlington Hotel, with its three incarnations, became a destination for players, the wealthy, and the famous. Ballparks were also built to accommodate the influx of players. John Taylor, owner of the Boston Red Sox, built a practice team in 1909 and dubbed it Majestic Park. Vogel Field was constructed by the Hot Springs Park Company in 1912 to meet training demands. I'll have this down by the end of the thing. But more baseball was played at Whittington Park than any other park in Hot Springs, and it was the site of a legendary feat that has yet to be topped. Okay, so the history of baseball spring training in Hot Springs is rich with anecdotes, scandals, and record-breaking moments. One of the greatest moments occurred March 17, 1918, when George Herman, the Babe, Ruth, was training with his team, the Boston Red Sox. On that St. Patrick's Day, nearly 2,000 fans were at Whittington Park watching a 23-year-old Ruth knock his second home run of the day in the sixth inning of an exhibition game against the Brooklyn Dodgers. The blast to right center field went over the fence, crossed the street, and landed in a pond on the alligator farm. The hit was so amazing, even the Dodger fans cheered. Babe's St. Patrick's Day homer is generally considered baseball's first home run to travel over 500 feet. In 2011, B&F Engineering was hired to investigate the legendary homer. Using archival and modern photography, they measured 573 feet from home base to the landing spot. To date, no recorded hit has gone farther than that ball. The golden days of baseball spring training, okay, we'll go, that's Babe Ruth's team. Babe Ruth, okay. The golden days of baseball spring training in Hot Springs would not last forever. It was weather that played a role in bringing the players there, and it was the unpredictable nature of Arkansas weather that played a role in the migration of the training camps to warmer, more reliable climates. Although some teams continued to send pitchers and catchers to town for pre-spring training, most major league teams stopped using it as their official site by the 1920s. But Nature's Sanitarium wasn't completely abandoned. Cy Young got special permission from the clubs he played for to work out on his own in Hot Springs and came for 20 years to take care of his arm. Jackie Robinson and scores of other Hall of Famers traveled to Hot Springs in the 50s. Kids still play ball at the former J.C. Park, now called the Majestic Park Complex, where a slugging Henry Hank Aaron of the Indianapolis Clowns played against the Birmingham Black Barons. 22 teams that trained in Hot Springs won either the American or national pennant. 11 teams won the World Series. Close to half the players in the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York, trained or played in Hot Springs between the late 1800s and mid-20th century. Among them, Babe Ruth, Cy Young, Jackie Robinson, Hank Aaron, Satchel Paige, Honus Wagner, and Arkansans Dizzy and Daffy, I didn't know about Daffy, Dean, to name a few. So today you can walk the Hot Spring Historic Baseball Trail featuring 31 sites honoring players who trained there, important events that occurred, and landmarks. Many of the early players never finished high school and were often united only by their passion and gift for a game that often united a country. When artists Chris Arnold and Jeff Garrison created the playing cards mural now found on the south wall of the Craighead Laundry building that's in downtown Hot Springs, they decided on a very special, or little change of Jackie Robinson's card. The lower edge in black and white transforms into full color at the top, a visual nod to the evolution of America's game. Thank you.
That in Hot Springs. Sorry. Thank you, Lisa. That was fantastic. Your musical treat for the day comes from Jean Fitzgerald. I love getting to know Jean at lunch after she had to play a bit of a scavenger hunt to find us at our lunch spot at Copper Grill when the Park Grill decided to close for some maintenance. She made it, though. Jean grew up in Nebraska and made her way to Arkansas 50 years ago by way of a short stop in Kingsport, Tennessee. She went to the University of Nebraska and graduated with a BFA in education. She is a multifaceted performer and artist with interests in the theater and music, and she even has a stained glass workshop. She and Bob, her Valentine of almost 55 years, lived in Batesville for 40 years before moving to Little Rock in 2015. She described Bob as an almost professional baseball card collector and trader, and you see all his stuff here. It's amazing. Another fun Jean fact we learned at lunch is that she is the grandmother of 12-year-old triplets, a girl and 2 boys. Wow. Jean became a member of the Aesthetic Club in 2022 and has performed for us 4 times since joining. She will announce her own program. Welcome up, Jean. There you are over there.
Thank you, thank you. And many thanks to Dr. Rita Keck, who will be my accompanist today. The music vibe in Hot Springs was directly connected to the variety of the people who spent time there from the very late 1800s through the 1960s. The infamous gangsters, the professional baseball players in Hot Springs for spring training, the professional, along with both the white and black populations. They all wanted to take part in the music scene of the day and knew exactly what they wanted to experience during those decades. It was a wild and exciting time for music in this small Arkansas city, just as much as in the big cities such as Chicago, New Orleans, and New York City. Jazz, blues, rag, and eventually swing were the cat's pajamas in those years. The fresh and expressive sounds of the music in the unique city of Hot Springs embodied decades of change and the spirit of liberation that was going on in America. Clubs such as the Ohio Club, the Southern Club, the Vapors, the Hot Springs Opera House, countless speakeasies, and the Woodman of the Union Building, also called the Black Broadway, attracted entertainers from all over the country. It wasn't uncommon for people such as Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, Duke Ellington, Cab Calloway, Count Basie, Mae West, Tony Bennett, Liberace, Dinah Shore, the Andrews Sisters, Frank Sinatra, and many more to grace the local clubs. Al Jolson preferred popping into town unannounced during his travels and playing in informal settings like bars, saloons, and private homes. Black artist Bessie Smith, known as the Queen of the Blues, was born in 1892. She performed there often during the 1920s. She wrote countless blues tunes, including the Hot Springs Blues, which I'm sure most performers included in their sets. Some of her other famous songs were Dirty No Good Blues, the Mean Old Bedbug Blues, and the ever popular Gimme a Pigfoot and a Bottle of Beer Blues. It's true. Strangely enough, I couldn't find sheet music for those popular numbers. Just couldn't happen. For my first piece today, I've chosen Ain't Misbehavin'. Written by Fats Waller and Harry Brooks with lyrics by Andy Razett in 1929, it was the theme song for the all-black musical comedy Connie's Hot Chocolate. It became very popular to everyone in 1978 during the Broadway musical review of Ain't Misbehavin', a tribute to Waller and the Harlem Renaissance. Fats' son, Maurice, wrote that everyone seemed to have his own version of how the song came into being. The most fanciful and most perceived version of this was that he wrote it while serving a brief jail sentence for his failure to keep up with his alimony payments. This must be true because Fats himself told Eddie Rochester Anderson of the Jack Benny television show that he wrote it on a miniature piano while in jail. Some of the lyrics say, "No one to talk to, all by myself. I'm through flirting. I don't go nowhere. Ain't misbehaving 'cause I'm saving all my love for you." I really wonder whether anyone could have really been that good during the heyday of Hot Springs. I have a feeling that there was lots of misbehaving going on. My second piece will be the universal baseball song, Take Me Out to the Ball Game, written by Jack Norworth and Albert von Tilzer in 1908. Neither had ever seen a baseball game before writing the song. Jack wrote the words after seeing a Subway advertisement for a baseball game. Jack never actually even attended a professional baseball game until 1940. Lyrics were actually more about a young woman who was feeling her oats in the new woman era. Her name was Katie Casey. Although the song originally caught on during high school games, it was first played at a professional game in the 1934 World Series. Let's say that the rest is history for this little tune. In 1949, MGM premiered a Technicolor musical comedy movie titled Take Me Out to the Ball Game, starring Gene Kelly, Frank Sinatra, and Esther Williams. It was touted the cure for anybody's blues. The movie profited a whopping $675,000. Pretty big, good profit right then. In 1979, things really changed for the song when the Harry Carey effect took over, when he sang the song during the seventh inning stretch at a Chicago White Sox game. The song is still sung during seventh inning stretches to this day. Today, according to the Library of Congress, Take Me Out to the Ball Game is considered the third most popular song in America after the national anthem and Happy Birthday. All right, let's see here. Okay, get my hat on. Okay. Katie Casey was baseball mad, had the fever and had it bad. Just to root for the hometown crew, every player Katie knew. On a Saturday, her young beau called to see if she'd like to go to a show. But Miss Katie promptly said, "No, no, no. I'll tell you where I want to go." But wait, Katie's not done. Katie's not done. Katie Casey saw all the games, knew the players by their first names, told the umpire he was wrong. All along, good and strong. When the score was just 2-2, Katie Casey knew what to do. Just to cheer up the boys she knew, she made the gang sing this song. Play ball! That was a fun one. My final song will be a Scott Joplin piece written on December 29th, 1902. The Entertainer was written as a ragtime two-step. Joplin was actually the first classically trained black composer to become a household name in America. The Entertainer was first sold as sheet music by John Stark and Son of St. Louis, Missouri in the 1910s, and also as piano rolls. Most of us will remember this song's popularity in the 1973 movie The Sting. The song blends plantation melodies and classical influences into early jazz. Meant for dancing and general enjoyment, it would have been popular in all Hot Springs music venues. I can picture musicians with their sleeves rolled up and a whiskey glass close by, playing on an old, not very well-tuned upright piano. Whether in the music hall, a popular club, or in a private home, people were kicking up their heels and downing the most popular drinks of the day. Oh, and before I start, now, just a minute. Weta, I think that you deserve this drink for helping me with my music, so cheers.
No, Tree.
No?
Don't you know the music committee doesn't allow any liquids on this beautiful piano?
Oh,
Sorry.
Weta, well, I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
Can't you do better?
Well, I have an idea. Would this be better?
That's good. Don't you think?
All right. Whew. That was close. I almost put that gin and tonic on that piano. Whew. Okay. Well, let's give this a go. I'll take my hat off, though. There we go. Okay.
Was that cool or what? Thank you, Jean. It was wonderful. Our final presenter today is Linda Butler Bishop. It was great to reconnect with Linda after not seeing her for, could it be a couple of decades, since junior league days? Linda grew up in North Little Rock, but moved across the river when she was 21, where she's lived most of the time since. She continues to work part-time as a paralegal and works because she loves to keep herself active and sharp and busy. Linda also works hard at home, too, caring for her Valentine, Bill, who has some serious health challenges. She and Bill have spent their 23 years of marriage back and forth from Little Rock to Eden Isle in Heber Springs, where they bought a home even before they were married. Linda also loves spending time with her 2 teenage grandgirls that she inherited from a previous marriage. She also has a connection to Hot Springs like me and the rest of our talent pool today. Her parents spent time at the Vapors we've talked about many times, and we might be even hearing a little more about it in her paper. Linda joined the Aesthetic Club in 2025, and her paper today, All in the Family, is her first. Come on up, Linda.
To think I have to follow Jeannie. So, Madam President, Madam Chairman, fellow esteetes, and guests.
Boy, the way Glenn Miller played.
Songs that made the hit parade.
Guys like us, we had it made.
Those were the days. And you knew where you were then.
Girls were girls and men were men. Mister, we could use a man like Herbert Hoover again.
Yes, those were the days. The All in the Family days. But today, we're not talking about Archie Bunker's family. We're talking about a different kind of family. Today, we're talking about gangsters.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Gangsters in the South, crime families. Believe it or not, New York and Chicago did not have a monopoly on gangsters. And we in the South have had our own brand of gangsters. There was the New Orleans La Cosa Nostra mafia family, one of the oldest mafia families in America. The Dixie Mafia out of Biloxi. Here in Arkansas, we had gangsters in Hot Springs. Galveston was known as the Chicago of Texas, and Phoenix City, Alabama was cast as Sin City. But really, what is a gangster? Merriam-Webster defines a gangster as, quote, a member of a gang of criminals. Really, Mr. Webster? You couldn't do better than that? How about racketeer? One who obtains money by an illegal enterprise, usually involving intimidation. Or one who tries to extort money from you. Or engages in gambling, legal or illegal. Prostitution, drugs, money laundering, loan sharking, fencing of stolen goods, and of course, murder. For any reason, all being run by the gangsters, and yes, it was all about power and money. One of the most prominent crime families in the South, the New Orleans La Cosa Nostra, were of Sicilian descent, as the Italian population in South Louisiana was mainly Sicilian. It began in the late 19th century in the form of small gangs around the area. As time went on, the gangs coalesced, dominated local society, and became super wealthy, so much so that the lower French Quarter was nicknamed the Sicilian Quarter in the early 20th century. Next slide. Silvestro Silver Dollar Sam Carollo led the entire crime family in New Orleans into a modern organized crime group in the 1920s. He gained considerable political influence in New Orleans, one example of which was his meeting Al Capone at the New Orleans train station with Carollo's own local police officers. The officers immediately disarmed Capone's bodyguards, broke their fingers, sent them back on the train to Chicago, and I guess Silver Dollar Sam wasn't interested in hearing what Capone had to say that day. Next slide. In 1949, Carlos, the little man, Marcello, took over the La Costa Nostra in New Orleans, and he reigned until 1977. In 1978, the federal government's investigation into President Kennedy's assassination found that although, quote, Marcello had the motive, means, and opportunity to have President John F. Kennedy assassinated, unquote, they were unable to establish any direct evidence of his complicity. The New Orleans LCN continued through the 80s and 90s, but an FBI sting operation arrested over 16 family members on charges of racketeering, illegal gambling, conspiracy, and infiltrating the newly legalized Louisiana video poker industry. Yeah. Those convictions and Marcello's death effectively destroyed the New Orleans family, and a lot of the leadership's offspring, after watching their fathers, grandfathers, uncles, brothers, sisters die in prison, they decided to go legit. Moving closer to home, as we've talked about already today, I'm sure y'all have all heard of or read a book titled The Vapors by David Hill. Mr. Hill presents a very interesting era of hot springs from the 1920s through the 1960s. There was a lot going on during those years. The baths, they were popular. The city was open for illegal gambling, prostitution, bootlegging, horse racing, and of course, Major League Baseball spring training was held here. Gangsters Frank Costello, Lucky Luciano, and Al Capone visited Hot Springs to take a break. Next slide. Another gangster, Oni, also known as the Killer, Meanie, moved to Hot Springs after a lucrative career in Harlem after a stint in prison. In 1932, our beloved Hot Springs mayor, Leo McLaughlin, who was in office for over 20 years, he was very in favor of all forms of illegal activity, and he was so happy to meet Mr. Maiden. Through the years, Maiden built up and controlled most facets of open gambling in the city. Baseball players frequented the casinos, back rooms, and the racetrack, and they enjoyed the company of other gamblers, some of which were gangsters from out of town. Madden opened nightclubs and brought headline entertainers in, as he had done in Harlem. Politicians and judges were regularly paid off and money was laundered. There were numerous thriving nightclubs by the 1960s, most with booming backroom casinos. Next slide. One of those was the Vapors, built in 1961 as a rival to the new Las Vegas glittery casinos. By 1962, acts like Tony Bennett, Liberace, Mitzi Gaynor, they were all entertaining the patrons that couldn't get to a dice table, blackjack game, or slot machines because they were so crowded. So they had to go for the live entertainment. The nightclubs were bringing more money into Hot Springs than they had ever seen, in spite of the fact that the feds were doing everything they could to shut down all the illegal activities. As the early 60s rolled on, politics in Arkansas changed, and the crackdown by the feds intensified, as well as the out-of-town gangsters wanting in on the action. The Vapors was bombed in 1963 by an unknown assailant, and death threats to the top dogs in Hot Springs were rampant. Eventually, in 1964, the Vapors closed, and that was the beginning of the end of the gangsters in Hot Springs. As Hot Springs was on its way out, the Dixie Mafia, or the Dixie Mob as it was also known, was an informal criminal group based in Biloxi, Mississippi, and it was on the rise. They were more interested in making money by any means, including bribery of public officials and murder, than just casinos. They operated around Birmingham, Baton Rouge, Hattiesburg, Dallas, and Atlanta, and were fond of small towns in the South with less risk of local law enforcement being able to link crimes to them. Unofficially, Mike Gillick, a wealthy entrepreneur, was the boss and their banker. He had a string of motels, no-tels, and nightclubs, also known as strip joints, and gambling dens on the Strip in Biloxi. He was the protector of, next slide, Kirksey Nix, one of the most notable members of the Dixie Mafia. In 1965, Nix was suspected in the gangland-style murder of Harry Bennett, a gambler about to turn state's evidence. And although his involvement was never proven, that killing was the first of 25 killings over the next 4 years, allegedly by Nix. He was said to have been somewhat connected to the Chicago mob boss, Sam Giancana, and thus became a leader of the Dixie Mafia. As time wore on and the Dixie Mafia became an intense focus of law enforcement once again, there were major prosecutions and convictions of leaders of the group. In 1987, not that long ago, girls, a Mississippi judge and his wife were murdered in their home, and Nix and an associate, also in the hierarchy, were convicted of the murders. With no one to lead, finally, the Dixie Mafia dismantled. Today, gangsters are quite different from their predecessors. The Mexican drug cartels have become the dominant organized crime force. Atlanta is now a hotbed of crime whose gangs have moved into music industry laundering, nightlife, and real estate fraud. New Orleans gangs are smaller and more local. Texas has its prison and street gangs, as does Arkansas. And throughout the South, there are still motorcycle gangs focused on drug trafficking, weapons, and extortion. As illustrated here, the real gangsters in the South have come and gone, and now are definitely a different breed as opposed to the gangsters of the 20th century. But, as the great Yogi Berra would say, it ain't over till it's over. And how do we know it's really over? As long as we have human beings on this earth, there will be a desire for money and power. So the next time you step into the casino at Oaklawn or on the boat in Tunica, take a look around. The person next to you might just be a gangster in the South.
Be a lady tonight. Luck to be a lady
Get all my papers
tonight.
messed up.
That was fantastic. If there is no other business, we are adjourned.